On a per calorie basis, broccoli is more expensive than red meat. I used to be a vegan and then a raw vegan, and I would maybe eat 2.5 pounds of broccoli in a day. And what I've since come to really believe is that most foods have some beneficial compounds. There's benefits, and then there's a lot of toxins. And toxins are in plants.
David Roberts and Dr. John Gildea are breaking new ground in cellular science, revealing how overlooked foods like broccoli can unlock resilience and reverse damage.
There are a lot of broccoli supplements, especially on Amazon, that say they have sulforaphane, but if you actually ask for their certificate of analysis, it's not sulforaphane, it's Glyphosate, the precursor.
Purified sulforaphane is the only compound that activates all three of the detox pathways in your liver. What are the three and why do people care?
You're listening to The Human Upgrade with Dave Asprey.
About a year ago, you guys came to the studio here in Austin and you schooled me on 3 different detox pathways. I always focus on 2, but there's a third one and you can do something for all 3. And I've been doing it really reliably since then. And I think it's worked really well. So I thought it'd be helpful to have you come back on the show. You got a couple of Johns Hopkins guys who are really, really deep in biohacking, biochemistry, and pick your brains about what's changing, especially because we now have AI assisting the research you're doing. So you guys okay to go deep on some cool new stuff?
For sure.
Sounds great.
Thanks for having us again.
Of course. Everyone's heard that broccoli is good for you. And there's also a group of people who say, no, it actually has some stuff in it you don't want. So what are the good parts of broccoli and what are the potential bad parts of broccoli?
So yeah, basically adult broccoli, there's a difference between adult broccoli, sprouts, seeds. The adult broccoli actually has more molecules in it, I3C and DIM. And you read papers we always get the question often in our customer service, can your capsules cause hypothyroidism? The answer is no. With sprouts and seeds, that doesn't have the same issues as mature adult broccoli for that reason.
So grown-up broccoli, the stuff that everyone eats and that they think is healthy, has thyroid blockers in it. And it also can have some other various types of plant toxins, and there's thousands of plant toxins, some stronger than others, right? So do you ever eat broccoli?
We do eat broccoli, at least I do, and it's because of some of the known synergies. So adult broccoli doesn't have a whole lot, but it has DIM and I3C, these 2 compounds that tend to be associated with the thyroid issues. They're goitrogens. Arusin is another one. And it turned out to be somewhat of a farce because the only people that really stumble with that one are people that have low iodine. And so there were a number of studies afterwards that proved that if you had adequate iodine, sulforaphane itself actually helped thyroid diseases. So it was one of those bait and switch, blame the whole complex when it was really just a couple of compounds.
So the idea is if you're going to eat broccoli, make sure you have enough iodine.
Right.
Okay. Another thing that I've taught for a long time is if you're going to eat broccoli, you should eat something that has the enzyme to activate the good stuff that gets turned on by cooking. So when I ran that first grass-fed restaurant in LA, no bad seed oils, this is more than 10 years ago I opened it, every single dish that had broccoli or cauliflower would have a slice of raw usually watermelon radish, but any kind of radish would do, in order to unlock this because of
myrosinase.
Tell me about that.
The cruciferous, the broccoli or the cauliflower, needs that enzyme in order to convert, in broccoli's case, sulforaphane, and in cauliflower's case, a cousin molecule in cauliflower. It needs the enzyme in order to make it into the usable form, the good form. And with broccoli, it's called glucoraphanin is the precursor. You take myrosinase, it cleaves the glucose, and you get sulforaphane. And so it's actually really smart to do that. In fact, because not everybody wants our capsules, we sell seeds on our site, but we also sell radish seeds. We sell broccoli seeds and radish seeds, and say you should buy both and grow both for that reason.
When you talk about capsules, you make broccoli, which is a purified sulforaphane, which is the only compound that activates all three of the detox pathways in your liver. What are the three, and why do people care?
Yeah, so phase 1, phase 2, phase 3.
Makes it easy.
Yeah, so they're in these very easy to remember complexes, but as you follow a toxin in your body, they make sense. In phase 1, you have to first change this molecule into something that your body will recognize. So it's often adding a oxidizing or changing it so that it's soluble, and oftentimes soluble. And then
say soluble in water.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so your body's going to take a toxin that you got from man or from nature, right? Even a metabolic byproduct or something from your gut bacteria. Toxins come from everywhere. And the first thing is make it so you can mix it with water. That's phase 1.
Right.
Okay, what's phase 2?
Phase 2 is conjugated to the shuttle system. So glutathione. Glutathione is the carrier for many of them.
Okay.
That's one that most people know about.
In the biohacking world, glutathione is something I introduced in the first year of the biohacking movement because it's such a powerful detoxer. So that's what's going to stick to these toxins. So phase 1 made them sticky. Phase 2 provided something for them to stick to, which is glutathione.
Yep.
Okay. And what's phase 3?
So as you think about how would you get rid of it, that's a tag. It's a handle that you then can grab and shuttle and move. And phase 3 is how you shuttle and move it out of the cell, move it into the extracellular space or lymphatics, and then get it out into feces or urine, get it out of your body.
So this is when you're going through a forest to clear it, you put a big red X on the trees you want to cut down and take out of there.
Perfect.
Okay. Or you hang a sign on the trash that says basura, which means trash. And you get it out. So somehow you flag it. That way the cell knows to remove it. And then you can pee it out or poop it out. And normally, you just take glutathione, right? You can do that. I've been recommending it for years. In fact, I still think taking some glutathione is not a bad idea. But what you're doing is the only thing I've ever heard of, and this is in 20 years of doing this stuff, that does all three of them in one compound, and it comes from broccoli seeds?
Correct.
How many pounds of broccoli seeds are in one capsule of broccoli?
Well, we talk about in 2.5 pounds of mature broccoli is the equivalent of one capsule.
Well, that's just one broccoli seed then, because it grows into it. Right?
It can grow big, yeah.
True.
Yeah. So yeah, and we also add the pluses. We add the good molecule from watercress, and it's called PEITC. It has a phenethyl group on there. And we read a paper that showed that there's a 5x synergy from just sulforaphane alone.
Oh wow!
And
so you amplify it.
It's amplified, so it activates NRF2 really well.
Okay, and why would people care about NRF2?
Well, NRF2 is at the center of phase 2 detox. NRF2 is really why you're taking sulforaphane. It's why there's a lot of research on it from Hopkins, but it activates also something called the antioxidant response element. And so so when the sulforaphane goes into the nucleus of the cell, it basically turns on 200 different genes that turn on and produce 200 antioxidants, and they stay on for 72 hours. So instead of like with vitamin C, you get one antioxidant and it neutralizes a pro-oxidant. What happens is this system turns on, stays on, and just cleans up the antioxidants really well, or the pro-oxidants really well.
NRF2 activation is tied to a lot of the longevity stuff that I've written about and just stuff in the field. So when I zoom out a level, I used to be a vegan and then a raw vegan, and I would maybe eat 2.5 pounds of broccoli in a day. And that was when I wasn't dating anyone, because anyone who would eat you can't do it.
Yeah.
And what I've since come to really believe is that most foods have some beneficial compounds. Except for kale. It's gross. Okay. Even kale has some beneficial stuff. So there's benefits, and then there's a lot of toxins. And toxins are in plants. There's some in animals like scorpion venom and snake venom, but we don't normally eat those. So you don't see a lot of animal-based toxins unless the meat is spoiled, right? Or you've done something weird to it. But with plants, you're like, okay, I got benefits, but the downside was meaningful. And I think it's there with excessive doses of broccoli, if nothing else, just gastric distress, which increases lipopolysaccharides and decreases fertility. Not actual fertility, you just can't get a date, because if you're someone who eats 2 pounds of broccoli, it's really not a good thing.
Infertility.
Yeah, exactly. It's room clearing infertility. We'll call it that way. So it's not reasonable to do that. And then there's all the other plants. So I ended up, after a lot of soul searching and research and, helping people lose millions of pounds, is the plants that are worth eating are oregano, rosemary, thyme, the herbs that we originally traded on the spice trading routes are the most potent sources of good without as much of the bad, compared to bulk vegetables, which frankly don't have enough energy to be worth eating unless we're in a kind of a famine situation. Like no one's like, oh my God, I'm starving. I just want broccoli. It's just not how it works. And my evidence for that is during hurricanes, if you go into the grocery stores, they've been picked clean. The vegan meat is still there because people are like, I'd rather starve than eat that, because it doesn't matter. So what's left is you want the good, you don't want the bad, and you can't eat enough of the bulk plants to get good out of them anyway. It's like, oh, look, watercress has this amazing power. Yeah, you eat enough of that watercress, you're going to clog your kidneys before you get any of the good stuff. So it's our job in biohacking, and some of you guys do, with Johns Hopkins level precision, but it's let's get the good stuff and get the right dose that I could not get by eating, right? And then let's make it easy to do. So I do 4 caps. I'm not saying this because of any commercial. I literally do 4 caps of broccoli, which is 10 pounds of broccoli every day. Now, I know one of my buddies in the longevity field is like, oh, look, I'm cooking some broccoli every day and putting it in my mush. I used to do that maybe 10 plus years ago. I don't really do that anymore. If I need broccoli as a base for something, I'll eat some, but there's no point to it. There's not enough benefit compared to the work and even the cost. People are listening and going, well, I'm trying to economize. Everything's expensive now. It's really expensive? Broccoli.
Yeah.
Because you get like 50 calories of broccoli and they charge you $8 for it or $6. Like, no, it's a terrible investment. On a per calorie basis, broccoli is more expensive than red meat. So what I would like to do is just say, I got all the benefits. And that's why I've increasingly used extracts of plants to get the results I want for longevity and cognitive function and biohacking. And because my history includes major exposure to toxic mold, and I had to detox from that and from heavy metals, my 20s, chronic fatigue syndrome and all, I actively manage my detoxing. I was just in Kenya and then Madagascar, literally 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
With my daughter. There's a lot of mold, especially in Madagascar. I couldn't find a room that was perfectly clean or even mostly clean. So I know I got mold exposure. Did I take extra broccoli, and extra glutathione on top of that while I was traveling? Yeah, I did. And it totally worked. I didn't get sick from it, which is remarkable. Yeah. So thank you for making it so I don't have to bring 50 pounds of broccoli through customs. You can't do it. So I hope that helps people understand, like, why would you think about it this way?
And the origins of this were like John's wife had cancer. My wife died from cancer. And so we made, I say we made broccoli sprouts for 10 families. So we juice them every day, enough. We used them for ourselves, but juiced them. And it's a job. And so at the time we had 1 and 3-year-old kids. And so it's just, we did it, but having an option. So if you travel or if your crop spoils or gets moldy or whatever, you can, fall back on it. And this one, we wanted to really activate NRF2. So that's why we threw in the watercress, but basically having folks have options to easily access the benefits.
When I was really into the raw vegan thing, I would sprout broccoli and various other things. It turns out a lot of sprouts have things you don't want, even broccoli sprouts, right? They have isothiocin in them as well. But when you extract the good stuff, you have to worry about it. And what I found was even when I bought like the multi level sprouting trays with misters and all that crap. They mold. No matter what you do, it molds. And it's
among
not,
other things.
It's not sustainable to do it at home, even if you want to save money. I know some people can say, well, I live in a perfect environment with sunshine and, I wear a sundress all day and, cavort in the sun and I have no concerns in the world and I, meditate over my sprouts with crystals. Fine. Like you're one in a million because it doesn't work even when you try to do it at home.
Yeah.
So how did you manage to do this for 10 families? Did you like sit there and stare at them so the mold wouldn't come?
Yeah, I got pretty good at telling which one's molded. So I just toss them and I could just look at it and just kind of assess and then harvest it. It wasn't 14, but it was enough but we used them all ourselves. So we just used a ton.
Got it. I used to use colloidal silver and grapefruit seed extract, and I'd play with stuff in the water just so they wouldn't spoil. So now you've just got a process where you're doing it at scale and I don't have to worry about it. I literally just take a pill and it's the same thing, but better than what I did with all that work.
And I will say, it's expensive. And the reason for that is it's really hard to make. And there are a lot of supplements, broccoli supplements specifically, especially on Amazon, that say they have sulforaphane. If you turn it around, they'll say sulforaphane on the ingredients list. But if you actually ask for their certificate of analysis, it's not sulforaphane. It's glucoraphane, the precursor.
Which doesn't work.
It doesn't, yeah, which may work if you have the right gut bacteria, but it's a crapshoot.
I'll comment on something.
Yeah.
I'm a slow thinker sometimes. So you're talking about your dish in California where they made this dish. The beautiful part about that I think people don't realize is your source of morosinase doesn't have ESP, the reverse enzyme.
Oh, what is that?
It inactivates.
So what, radishes don't have ESP?
I mean, you like
tell me more.
So that your design for your experiment is, I think, why I was sort of shocked into dumbfoundedness is that is amazing that your source of the morosinase that you're doing the conversion with actually doesn't have the reverse enzyme. So you're not doing the Rhonda Patrick, do this at this temperature, do this at other temperatures, and you're playing yin yang games. You're actually using the forward very process of enzyme. And I think no one probably knew it. They just came back a lot probably to that restaurant.
People did not know why they felt good with half the dishes. They also didn't know that I had electrically grounded all of the tables. Oh, wow. We do like a 20-foot spike, 20-foot copper spike into the foundation underneath it. And then we had metal embedded on the edges of everything. So they're earthing while they eat. Wow. And the lighting was like, I just was like, I want you to know what biohacking really feels like. And I don't know why it all works, but it was carefully composed based on science. Yeah.
That's super cool.
And some of that carries forward into Upgrade Labs, my franchise. It's designed a certain way when you come in and you feel good and all the equipment works too.
Yeah.
So it's a systems biology thing, which is where you guys are both experts in. And yeah, Rhonda's interesting where, she got to be well known when she came on Joe Rogan's show. He was looking for an expert who would say mycotoxins didn't matter because he was kind of trying to discredit the 3 times I've been on his show, but he was selling a competing product. So Rhonda came out, and I've invited her multiple times on the show to be like, let's talk about whatever you want to talk about, but let's maybe talk a little bit about mycotoxins, because when you tell people that they don't work, and I get it, there's a reason to tell Joe that, mycotoxins are very important for what's happening with our fertility, for people who can't lose weight, even some of the GLP-1 stuff that we're going to talk about. And if you want to detox mycotoxins, the vast majority of them need phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. And so sulforaphane should be on the list for all the mold people, right up there with glutathione and calcium glucarate. And so sulforaphane is one where I knew it was important, but I didn't know how important it was until you guys taught me. And I've noticed a difference from taking it. So,
and speaking of mycotoxins, the whole glyphosate issue, that's sort of one of the big mycotoxins, right? And
well, there's microtoxin, there's mycotoxin, there's like the mold side. And then what's confusing is mold toxins, mycotoxins are also microtoxins.
You're saying myco?
I was saying myco, yeah.
I misunderstood.
Got it. Yeah, I figured as much. And also for some of our listeners, mycotoxins just means toxins from mold. Yeah. And penicillin would be a mold toxin. It messes up all your gut bacteria, but it's useful. And then there's things like zearalenone. This is 1,000 times more estrogenic than human estrogen.
Oh, wow.
And in the ranching industry, we give it to cows so they'll get fat on 30% less calories. Right. So if this drug exists and there's a market for, $100 million market or something for it, I'm pretty sure that guys like that Lane guy and others are like, it's all about the calories. I'm like, dude, if it's about the calories, this drug cannot exist. And it does. So this is why it's so important. I had exposure to that. So for me, and for most people who, moldy schools, moldy workplaces, moldy homes, you need to be upregulating detox so that you can either heal or just not get sick in the first place, which is why I think glutathione and broccoli just go together for mold people as something that I did not quite understand that phase one. So I appreciate that you guys shared it. But now, glyphosate, a microtoxin, because they're at low levels. What happens with glyphosate and these 3 phases of detox?
So the thing we've looked into specifically with glyphosate and, what with our physiology is tight junctions. So the gut barrier, glyphosate opens it. And so it can cause leaky gut and intestinal permeability.
Wow.
And then also with gap junctions, so the communication network cell to cell, which is how, like, if you get a cut, how does your skin know to heal that cut? There's a communication. If you think about it, it's kind of cool. Communicates and then it heals. That's the communication network, the gap junctions. Well, glyphosate screws up tight junctions, it screws up gap junctions, and so John created some series of experiments to show how the sulforaphane can be protective on glyphosate's interruption of tight junctions and gap junctions.
That's incredible, because so much of aging and so much of just brain fog and just feeling like crap and being emotionally reactive, it's because something opens up the tight gaps in the lining of your gut. And zonulin or gluten are 2 common things that we hear of. Zonulin's from gluten or from other grains, and corn has something called zine. So these are things that just poke holes in it. And if you have toxins called lipopolysaccharides, but basically bad gut bacteria toxins, we all have some of those. They're normal, but the gut's supposed to stay sealed so that they can't come through. So then you get glyphosate, which is on all American wheat. And in fact, it's even in like American wine. You've soaked our soil in it.
And beer.
Oh, and beer, it's everywhere. So if you're getting a dose of that and you know you're getting it, but enough to open that gap, then you wouldn't have had brain fog. You wouldn't have had inflammation, but now you do. So if sulforaphane is sealing that so that now these toxins can't get through, that's a massive shift.
Yeah, there's whole review papers on the connection between NRF2 and gap and tight junctions. So we have the best NRF2 inducer in sulforaphane, and so it doesn't have problems with bioavailability. It's getting to that site at a dose that tightens the tight junctions. And we were really surprised to find out that the gap junctions also repair. Wow. It's a pretty sophisticated experiment with the high-end microscope where you load up one of the cells with a dye that can go through the gap junction. Glyphosate ruined that. So you load up this one dye and put it next to its neighboring cells, and normally it spills into the neighboring cells. You add glyphosate, they don't. It just retracts this little communication network between cells. And then when you add sulforaphane, it repairs the tight junctions and the gap junction, and those cells start acting like an organ again. And so we, for the longest time, thought, if you wanted to start a cascade of things that could lead to bad, get all your cells acting like individuals.
Yeah.
And
instead
of
not
great.
Yeah. Wow. So the real reason I wanted to chat with you today is that, well, a few people that we know are using GLP-1 drugs. I mean, a lot of them actually. And I'm actually in favor of microdosing GLP-1 maybe once a week, 10% of the normal dose tirzepatide for longevity. And there's pretty good evidence for that. But that's a very different use case than people who are weakening their bones, of losing muscle mass. And I've done multiple episodes on what do you do to counteract those things, but it's still not so good. So I'm interested, what can we do with natural compounds to affect our GLP-1 system? So maybe you don't need to spend $1,000 a month, and maybe you could lose weight.
One of our partners is a MD, and we had originally said we'll never do like a weight loss drug or a supplement rather, because like you think about that and you think about, used car salesman or just like cheesy, yucky sales tactics.
Yes, all that matters is calories. And then you do what they say and you're stuck on it forever and it doesn't work and you hate your life. Yeah, I might have run into a few of those people.
Yet, I mean, it's a huge issue, right? Metabolic syndrome, 1 in 3 people. I just read a paper getting ready to come on. 66% of people over 50 have metabolic syndrome.
Wow.
So it's like massive. And so having, and that's probably in part why a lot of people are moving towards these GLP-1s, which, as you said, you can lose up to 40% of your muscle mass. Is the weight you lose is 40% muscle. And so that's going the opposite direction. So having a product that is natural, that is actually healthy, and gives you, maybe it's not the same results like these huge weight losses, but it's moving you in the right direction. We wanted to have a product that is an alternative, and could really support people who are coming off, because not somebody may lose their insurance and they can't pay $1,000 a month. And so what are they going to do?
What is metabolic syndrome and how do you know if you have it?
Yeah, so metabolic syndrome is the combination of hypertension, increased adiposity.
So high blood pressure and you're fat. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's basically...
So like in the study I've referenced were 66%.
Salt sensitive?
66% of the people over 50 having the metabolic syndrome, the way they define it, you had to have 3 of 5
Type 2 diabetes.
Checks. They had to check the box of 3 of these 5. So blood pressure over 130, over 85, waist circumference over 37.5 inches. You had to either fasting blood glucose over 100 or have had a diabetes or prediabetes diagnosis, triglycerides high, I don't remember the exact number, and cholesterol high, both, or abnormal. I can't remember the ranges of that.
Yeah, and that last one seems
we were talking about that.
Absurd.
Yeah.
It's like the cholesterol statin lobby will insert stuff everywhere. Same as they do, like red meat's bad for you. It's like, guys, you're studying lasagna. Like, I'm going to blame the noodles. Like, since we're not being scientific about it, I'm just going to just pick that one. Or we could just do real science. Right?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
That
we actually used to do high-fat diet studies, and I was always arguing, could we just be transparent about it because it's high fat and high carb?
Oh yeah, there's that.
The chow you buy, you just say it's high fat chow, but they don't say, unless you dig in this, the deep part of the paper. Those are high fat, high carb diets.
And they also never really tell you, unless you dig deep, what kind of fat was it? Because it's so weird that this one fat that I made into $1 billion industry, an MCT oil, cannot be stored as fat and causes you to burn more calories. So you can't say fat if you don't know what kind of fat. It's like saying I'm on a liquid diet. If the liquid is gasoline, you're going to die, right? And if the liquid is water, you're not going to, they're not the same just because they're liquid. So I get so tired of that, right?
I can confirm that there's not C8 in any of the high-fat diet studies.
Yeah, that is 100% true. So you give the mice C8 and, oh wait, they did do that about 5 years after I wrote the book, Mice and Humans. Richard Cunane at UCSD, I think, did the human study. And magically, this one fat raises ketones, but other fats don't. And stearic acid stops fatty liver, but canola makes it like there's all this stuff. And so anyway, I guess I go on a rant for a whole show about that. But when it comes to metabolic syndrome, the definition that I first learned was from a book called Syndrome X. And this is a researcher in the late 90s who first identified metabolic syndrome. In fact, it was Syndrome X before that. And it included insulin resistance as a part of that. So you have high insulin levels that don't lower blood sugar. Because you can have people who have relatively high blood sugar, which probably isn't that good for you. But if your insulin is low, right, then you don't have that syndrome. You might just have high blood sugar, which isn't technically even diabetes. And no one talked about leptin until much later. And leptin resistance precedes insulin resistance. So the way people know, though, is you're fat, you're tired, and you have high blood pressure for the most part.
Yeah. I mean, and you can probably walk around the streets and say, kind of guess pretty well who's metabolically compromised.
You're also likely to fall asleep at 2 p.m. Your mitochondria aren't making energy as much. You have energy dips and you're tired, right? That's part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and circling back to one of the drivers of it we already mentioned was endotoxemia. And
Ooh, what is that?
So when you get the leaky gut and your LPS is coming off of the bacteria and going through this side of the walls, that is turning on a set of pathways that in the lab we known as the strongest inducers of NF-kappa B, so inflammation.
Wow, that's one of the inflammatory cytokines that are a sign of inflammation. Just like different fats do different things, when people talk about inflammation, well, inflammation can be expressed through what, about a dozen common cytokines? And so what kind of inflammation do you have? Oh, you mean it might be different? Well, what's the uniting element? There can be environmental insults. There can be emotional or physical stress, like heat stress or whatever. And then this endotoxin thing. So when I was in Africa, there was one day where I definitely got something I didn't want to eat, right? And there's a little known way to drop endotoxins in the gut dramatically. Orange juice.
Yeah, wow.
Very strange. It's probably the naringen, I forget what it's called.
Yeah, naringen.
That's in it. And there's multiple studies about this. So even though orange juice isn't really a part of my life, I'm like, yeah, I'll have the orange juice. And I did that with a handful of activated charcoal. I let it go through the system for a couple hours. And then I took my broccoli, just like, let's get all that toxin out. So I turned off the endotoxin production with the orange juice. I bound the toxins with the activated charcoal. And then I didn't barf like my daughter did. And I felt fine the next day. Like, whoa. Like, this is how powerful it is to understand these systems.
That's a biohack. Yeah, barf too, fine.
And interesting with MCT oil, it turns out all saturated fats can escort endotoxins through the gut. It's one of the reasons people say high-fat diets are bad for you, because if you have bad gut bacteria and you eat high fat, it can escort the fat through the lining of the gut. But strangely, MCT oil protects the liver from lipopolysaccharides or endotoxin-induced damage. So you can take a protective thing, and you could also take a protective thing like broccoli, where, okay, now I have something that will bind to them. So you're going to take a hit every time you eat. You get some endotoxins, right? Yeah. So you might as well tune what you're eating so that you don't get brain fog, you don't get tired, and you reverse this insulin resistance metabolic syndrome.
Yeah.
So how much of metabolic syndrome do you think is actually caused by endotoxins, these gut bacteria getting in?
I think it's in the mix. I don't have any idea what percentage, but maybe it's a common component. I don't know to what level that, when we do research, it's you're always trying to simplify it, do the model with the one inducer. So that's a lot more than what you ever see.
But if you think about it, like, what are people eating that opens their gut? Mm-hmm. I mean, glyphosate's everywhere, glucosate's everywhere. Yeah,
obviously.
So, most people are probably, it's probably most, but
I think it's way more than we acknowledge, but I don't have hard science for it. Sometimes your intuition, you have been studying it for years, like, it's probably pretty big. Well, you're very believable, decades at Johns Hopkins and other places. Like, if you say that's likely, you're way more believable than the average person. And I think it's likely too, but we don't know the extent. No. But here's an interesting point. And we'll get back to the GLP-1s that affect all of these metabolic pathways. But there have been 2 studies of the plaque that's found in our arteries, the soft plaque, the dangerous stuff. All of the fat in the plaque is from fermentation in the gut. Like all of it. And they're looking at isotopes to figure this out. They're going, oh my gosh, it's not from eggs. That was absurd and nonsense. And it's not from butter. And it's not even from canola oil. It's from endotoxin producing bacteria that are making these sticky fats that go there. Isn't that weird?
Man, talk about hidden gem.
Yeah. It was, I was amazed when I said that. And I brought it up in a debate with this, probably the only vegan cardiologist left. There aren't very many of them because they keep falling down from dying. Yeah. But sorry, guys. I raised it. He goes, but that's only 2 studies. I'm like, that's not how science works. It's not a democracy of studies. If they're well-conducted studies, and these were very solid, then what we believed was wrong.
And they're even better when they're blinded to their own results because they weren't looking for that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no one would have expected that.
That's amazing. One of the parts of the endotoxin world that I think a lot of people aren't aware of is that they're kind of like phospholipids. When you talk about them in biology, you draw on the membrane so that they all look the same, but there's hundreds. Endotoxins are the same way. When we use endotoxins to stimulate inflammation, we use it from salmonella. And so there are a lot of different structures, and they activate that cascade very differently and for different strengths. So what you have in your gut when you eat your glyphosate-rich meal could, send you one way or the other. And then if you have either a tight junction or good microbiome, it may be less, or you would assume that it's less. So it's probably a good strategy to try and do both.
If I know I'm going to go out to a restaurant and I know, therefore, I'm going to be getting glyphosate in my food, at least in the US, do I pre-treat with sulforaphane? Do I take it with the food, or do I take it after the food?
Before, for sure.
How
least
long?
in any amount of time, it's very fast. So getting the tight junctions tight is definitely less than 15 minutes.
Okay, so 15 minutes or more before you eat, you want to take a broccoli if you're going to be exposed to glyphosate in order to protect the tight junctions in your gut, according to the research that you've done.
Yeah, and then the other way around
Big.
is equally as astounding is if you get the glyphosate and you disrupt the junction, it takes a number of days to repair it.
Even with sulforaphane?
Yeah.
Okay, so then you want to be on it before you get exposed. Okay, if you eat grains in the US, or actually most of the food you find at restaurants, you're getting glyphosate. It is soaked into everything. Wow. And so how long is the effect? If I take your sulforaphane activating stuff, the broccoli, if I take it, how long will my tight gap junctions be protected? Is this like a 12-hour, 24-hour effect?
So we've done it in vitro in cell culture, and it lasts for days.
Wow. So if you take it every morning or every night, then you're protected.
I think it's one of those things where you're bringing a big complex together. It's hard to bring it together, but when you have it formed, it's one of those principles where each one of the proteins wants to leave, and it has that tendency. But once you get it really stable, one's trying to leave while another one's holding it together. So it's stable once you make it, and it's there are very few things that can disassemble the whole thing, but glyphosate's one of them. So is gluten.
Yeah, I really don't think gluten's beneficial for anyone, but I did go through a period a few months ago where I ordered glyphosate-free organic European wheat, which is a different species than American, much lower in gluten, and then I fermented the crap out of it.
Yeah.
And I made sourdough, and I actually ate it every day for a month. And at the end of the month, it was not good for me. My joints started hurting the way they did as a teenager. So I don't recommend that. But I could tolerate it 1,000 times better because like 1 teaspoon of American wheat wrecks my gut and gives me pimples. Like, it's just so bad. So you can reduce it, but I don't think gluten is a regular part of the diet for most of us if we want to live a long time. But it's better than starving, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We use the same principle if we're going to go out and have some drinks. We'll have sulforaphane to protect that. Basically formaldehyde that's going to come no matter what. So taking it afterwards is not so great idea. I mean, you can do it, but before is obviously so much better.
And alcohol also opens the gap junctions in the gut. So you might as well pre-treat with sulforaphane. For years, I've been recommending a protocol. If you're going to drink, what do you do? In fact, it was one of my first very early popular blog posts way back when it was still Bulletproof Exec. And it was, what do you do to stop that aldehyde spike? It's you take glutathione, or in this case, you could take sulforaphane, which is going to benefit even more because it protects the gut in a way the other stuff doesn't. So since then, I've modified the protocols on the blog, right? Say there's a probiotic you can take, but I will add broccoli to that because it's that important to protect the lining of the gut. Now, we've talked a lot about toxins because those toxins are intimately tied to metabolic syndrome, which is tied to being fat the way I used to be. 300 pounds was not a fun place to be. So if someone's stuck at a fat loss plateau, what would you do?
When we first started talking about this issue, we had in mind that we wanted something that pushed the right pathways meaning we wanted to do something about satiety. We wanted to do something about hunger. And we wanted to do something about mitochondrial function. And a strange one is dopamine. So that target was a little bit elusive at first, in that it has to do with this whole area of non-exercise thermogenesis. And so
What is that?
it's when what you see an athlete, they're burning energy more than an average person. Their non-exercise metabolic rate is higher. And so dopamine is one of the things that regulates that. And so we knew that from pretty early on that you can take EGCG, and because that inhibits...
It's green tea extract.
That's the extract, exactly. And it will inhibit COMT, catechol O methyltransferase, and that's how dopamine is degraded. And so just a simple push in that area is helpful. And the other one, that's another catechol, is noradrenaline. And so both of those, a gentle push pushes you into this non-exercise induced thermogenesis. And those were a few of the targets that we were chasing. And a good reason to bring that up at first after sulforaphane is that one of the targets of sulforaphane that we rarely talk about is this NQO1. People use it as the target because it's a really good marker for whether you turn on NRF2.
Okay.
And so NQO1 does this thing with quinylation. So it's a new topic, but basically dopamine is gotten rid of by quinylating things.
Interesting. So if you get a dopamine surge, then it's going to break down quickly if you're fast at quinolating. That's new for me. Okay.
Yeah, quinylation. And so what's interesting about that is that sulforaphane doesn't just make these dopamine and norepinephrine longer. It's working together with EGCG because it's quinylated also. So it's making EGCG longer lasting. EGCG is making an effect of sulforaphane better with dopamine.
Oh, okay. So there's a rate at which your body can quinylate things. So you're stuffing your quinylation things with EGCG and sulforaphane so that they'll compete with dopamine. So dopamine lasts longer because the body's quinolating all these things. That's a new word for me. I kind of like it.
Yeah, quinylation. And so any catecholamine, so norepinephrine, dopamine, and then it turns out that EGCG is a catecholamine, basically, and it's quinylated to be gotten rid of. So these two are talking to each other in a really kind of subtle and beautiful way, which I think it's hard to directly say that, a happier person is less metabolically challenged.
Why is it hard to say?
I don't know. I just think biochemically I have a tough time with it because
why?
I study the kidney and the brain is just a big giant jumble of unknown to me.
I just look at it from a straight up mitochondrial effect. We know that mitochondrial function is very high in the prefrontal cortex, and we know that your ability to regulate your emotions is tied to that. So everyone who's ever been hypoglycemic or hangry knows what happens when you're dealing with lower mitochondrial function.
Yeah.
Right? Like that. This is a known thing. And I've multiple things in, let's see, what was that book? That was Headstrong, which was my Alzheimer's, Parkinson's cognitive enhancement book. Got goosebumps from that. Doesn't it make sense though? And now as a former obese person, when I was really fat, my ability to manage my emotions was lower because so much of my mitochondrial output went into making fat and dealing with toxins instead of making dopamine, instead of making neurotransmitters, and instead of powering my brain. So it's an energetic imbalance. So, and there are actually studies out there, and people ask me to cite them. I'm like, you go to ChatGPT, same as I would, right? But if you are carrying a lot of extra weight, it is harder to regulate your behavior, harder to regulate your cravings, and harder to regulate the way you treat other people, your emotional regulation. And it's not because you're a bad person. It's because there's a net amount of energy available. and it wasn't going to your brain the way it should. And that's why fixing metabolism makes people happier because, wow, I didn't yell at my kids.
Outside of my science, like it rang so true to me is like when I'm a pretty even person.
Yeah.
If my gut doesn't feel good, man, is that super obvious that my emotions get unruly. I am not a good patient.
Right. I think it's true of all people. And it's funny because how many of us have said, I'm such a bad person, I can't believe I did that. Like, no, your gut integrity was off. You had toxins circulating that caused your brain to be inflamed, and your mitochondria have an issue making enough energy because you're metabolically resistant. So let's fix that. And one way is, we could go, inject $1,000 drug, or we could address the breakdown of catecholamines, which you beautifully talked about. And your GL Perfect, which obviously GLP is in the title, supplement is doing what you just talked about. You've got the Berb Elite, which is berberine. But actually, we haven't talked about berberine, but it has berberine and it has EGCG and alpha-lipoic acid. So what's working with these things, and why does GL Perfect not have sulforaphane from broccoli in it?
One of the things, to keep in mind is EGCG is fat soluble. Not a lot of it, and when you drink just regular green tea, gets through your gut barrier. I think it's couple percent bioavailable.
There's not very much in there. It's the same as broccoli. 2.5 pounds of broccoli to get one little capsule, or drink 10 glasses of green tea to get the tiniest dose of EGCG. Oh, and no one talks about this. Green tea is full of oxalate, which clogs your kidneys, 70% of kidney stones. I think it's a major cause of aging that's under-respected. Green tea also blocks your ability to use folic acid or folate, which is a problem. So you have to take more of it. You also, I think, need more biotin when you're taking it, if memory serves right. So yes, 1 to 2 cups of green tea is correlated with living longer. It's good for you from polyphenols. But if you want to use green tea pharmaceutically like EGCG, you cannot do it without overwhelming the system. Right? So, okay. So we're going to do this extract. By the way, I take EGCG every single day. I absolutely rely on it because I only have 9 companies and I have this whole life and stuff. And man, having my dopamine where it needs to be, and more importantly, you said norepinephrine, which no one even talks about. Noradrenaline is another name. When that is low, people are depressed, they're anxious, they're low energy, but it's not even something that most biohackers talk about. And it rides with dopamine, right? It's made in the same ways. Yeah. So what is GL Perfect doing for noradrenaline versus dopamine, and why does it make such a big difference?
So EGCG is through that COMT inhibition that I was talking about, makes norepinephrine. And it's probably a good reason not to take it right before you go to bed. The first part, if you can, muster your way through it, but some people are sensitive to having.
Most people shouldn't take it at night.
Yeah.
So we were talking before the show, guys. I take tyrosine, which is stimulating and helps you make dopamine and norepinephrine. It's a precursor. And I take EGCG and I take rhodiola before I go to bed. And it benefits me, but it should not. This is a bad idea for you, but I did that last night. I got 2 hours of deep sleep and an hour and a half of REM in 7 total hours after doing that, which is a little bit better than average, right? Why? Because I have low blood pressure and I'm just keeping my blood pressure high.
Wow.
Right. So there's a lot of nuance, and this is another reason why I will do this episode. We'll talk about why the stuff you make works and when to use it. But I will never tell anyone, here's all the stuff that I take, because I know that you would go out there and you would go and you'd spend $3,000 a month on supplements like I do, and you would shit your pants and stay up all night. Because my biology is different. And so is yours. Every person is different, right? And if I did what you did, I wouldn't like it. And if you did what he did, he wouldn't like it. So personalization matters. That's why I teach ingredients. I teach pathways only, because we have to make our own stack. Unfortunately, AI is making it easier. And we've got the virtual Dave thing that's about to come out with one of these where I'm teaching people how to do all this because it has to be custom. And so you'll never see me put 50 ingredients together. Yes. But what you're doing with GL Perfect, you have basically 3 ingredients. You have a bioavailable berberine, EGCG, and alpha-lipoic acid. Now, bioavailable, you've done something that's not even really disclosed here. You've made it 5 times more available than normal stuff. What did you do?
250 times more bioavailable.
Oh, 250. Oh, I was wrong a little bit. So you're saying that this dose of EGCG, which is 50 milligrams, relatively small. I think I take 100 of regular stuff if I'm not using, you just sent this to me, so I'm switching over. This isn't 250 times more bioavailable. So this is like a massive dose of EGCG.
It is, yeah.
I have yet to try this. You literally just sent it to me. So I'm kind of scared to try it. Am I going to?
Maybe not this.
I'll take
one
this one in the
night.
morning.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
try it first.
the vibe, like the mental, it's a feeling of wellness. Like I've got this energy, which is the original ethos behind a lot of biohacking. Is if you just have enough energy, your stress goes down because you can handle whatever comes your way. And EGCG is way under respected for that. But if you're getting it in 250 times better, I could take a whole bottle of it and it wouldn't come in as much as one of these capsules.
And so
I got to try this.
One of the things that people notice pretty immediately when they take even one capsule is
It says to take 2 as the normal dose?
Yeah.
I'll take 4.
They're not hungry, and so they're
TP for my tongue. Oh, sorry.
they're ghrelin. So basically, EGCG downregulates ghrelin, the hunger hormone, and so
I did not know that.
yes, and so like when we first made it, like we're all taking it, and everyone's like, "Are you hungry?" I'm not hungry. Like no hunger. Now that's different than a GLP-1 where you can not be hungry and it's hard to eat because your gut motility is slow. You may have your stomach acid may be kind of screwed up. You may be a little bit nauseous if you're having side effects. Whereas with this, you're not hungry, but if you eat, you can eat. Like it's fine to eat.
Doesn't make you nauseous. You just don't want to eat.
You just, aren't hungry to eat.
I've said on another episode of the show, the longevity benefits of low dose retatrutide, which is one of the GLP ones, like the most active on glucagon, a bunch of reasons to take it. Even at a 10% of the normal dose, I feel like crap for 2 days. I'm nauseous, my energy is low, and I just don't like my life. So I'm apparently a strong reactor to it. I cannot take that stuff and function the way I do, even though I know it might be good for me.
Sure.
So my only option would be to activate it the way you're talking about, and just by getting my EGCG levels high enough, which apparently I can't do, or at least I wasn't, because if I was taking 100 milligrams of normal and you've got 50 milligrams of 250X, how do you make it absorb so well? Like that's totally that's a big number. That's more than liposomes would do.
And much more, yes. So basically, we have a patent pending on a carrier molecule. And so basically we have a protein that we attach it's a plant protein that we attach a C-base carbohydrate to, and we make it kind of the unique molecule that we then attach the polyphenol. So in this case, EGCG and berberine are attached to that molecule.
I don't see that molecule on here. How come?
We basically talk about the bioavailable.
So that's what makes
the
it
complex.
bioavailable.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the powder.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
With that complex, basically, we like to talk about it as like smuggling because it's actually hidden inside the protein. It's like smuggling it through the gut.
And you recommend 1 capsule with your first meal and 1 capsule with your last meal. Even at dinner, it's not going to keep me up?
It depends on when you eat dinner. So
Okay,
like
early dinner.
an early dinner, it's fine. Yeah.
All right, so I just took 4 of them on an empty stomach and I haven't eaten today. What's going to happen to me?
I have no idea.
Yeah, taco really fast.
I will say this, like we have had two of our, like one friend, one employee take it and they have the opposite effect. And so it does actually.
It makes them hungry?
It does. Yeah. And so the rationale there is the berberine drops your blood glucose. And this one, because it's so bioavailable, it drops it really well. And so, for example, my blood sugar is typically under 100. I measured it. I do a finger prick. One day it was 115. I'm like, oh, crap. And so I take 3, and 2 hours later it was 70.
Wow.
John took his was like 95. He took one. I think he took 1, and 45 minutes later it was 82. And so
It went up a little bit.
No, 95 to 82.
that was
really quickly.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. And that's no exercise. I was sitting at a desk.
Okay. So I've been taking Berbolete, which is your berberine product, for a while. And I like it. I take it pretty much anytime I eat. Does this replace that, the GL Perfect?
So it depends on what you're going for. So it's a different form. So this one, the one in Berberine isn't bound to the protein. We add the broccoli powder as the bioavailable mechanism.
Okay. So I could take that and this?
You could. Yeah,
Okay.
I do.
Got it.
The way we separate those two products is berberine has a big effect on your microbiome.
Yes.
And so, especially Akkermansia induction, generally change the B to F ratio. You want to explain that, but the general designation is bacteroides to firmicutes improves, and so by doing those kind of three big changes, berberine helps a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so when you have a very like in the very high bioavailable berberine, most of it's going in. You're not delivering as much to your gut.
So I take GL Perfect for metabolic effects. I take Berberine for microbiome effects and some blood sugar. Okay.
And sleep. So basically there's one of our favorite papers is looking at a mouse study showing that berberine outperforms Valium as a sleep aid. So by increasing, it increases serotonin 30%, increases dopamine 25%.
I had no idea. As a sleep aid, berberine?
Yeah. In fact, I found that paper after I surveyed our Berberine users. Like, what are you guys using it for? Thinking ketosis. 75% of the people who answered the survey were using it for sleep. And I'm like, what? And so went to PubMed, found this paper. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
But it doesn't have Valium-like effects during the day at all. Berberine doesn't suppress your brain.
No.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think it came up because we were suggesting that in the original study I did, I looked at ketones as well as blood sugar, and it would kick you into ketosis faster. And I would take it first thing in the morning to get into ketosis, a little bit deeper ketosis. But if you take it a couple hours after dinner, you can get into ketosis by the time you wake up.
Wow.
And so I think that's how people started getting really interested in taking it before bed. And then people were finding out that they're sleeping. And I think that happened simultaneously with the paper, basically.
Yeah, and I'll take a couple Berberites, a couple broccolites before bed, and I'll keep one of each by my bed, as well as our sleep product. We have a Sleep Elite product that's mainly broccoli and Berberine. But if I take that if I wake up at the 3, inevitably that sleep from like 3 to 6, 3 to 7 is the best sleep. I'll wake up, I'm like,
So you wake up to pee, you take a couple, and then you get that really good.
Just amazing dreams.
Well, that would make sense because the first half of your sleep, especially if it was dark before bed or you wore the True Darks, you have an early dinner, you get all of your deep sleep pretty much before midnight, maybe before 1 or 2. And then after that, you should switch into REM. But if you're having a metabolic crash, which a lot of people get, that's what wakes them up because their metabolism doesn't work. They're beginning to get metabolic syndrome. So they blood sugar crash, body says, adrenaline, cortisol. And then they wake up, but they can't go back to sleep. So if they take this, you take your sleep product then, or you take?
I'll take one Sleep Elite, one Berberine, one broccoli.
Okay, so you do all 3 right there at like 3 a.m.
Yeah,
and then you just get all the REM sleep you wanted. So that's a neat hack. I will try that tonight if I wake up at 3. Okay, I'll drink extra water, so I would wake up at 3.
Waking up to take a sleep product sounds a little counter too.
I'll set an alarm. One of the long-standing supplements in longevity and biohacking is alpha-lipoic acid. It's so good for mitochondria. I think I've written about it in 3 or 4 of my books. And you guys have an interesting perspective that it might work better with berberine than without it. Why?
Berberine, one of its known targets, is probably its best known target, is AMP kinase activation. And so lipoic acid induces AMP kinase as well, but by different mechanisms. So they are both inducing this fasting mimic state.
It's a master metabolic switch, really.
Okay.
And so the two of those together work really nicely. And I think the reason one of the big reasons we put lipoic acid in there, of course, is to stimulate mitochondria. It's in the middle of everything. But the other one is this glucose sink idea where it acts a little bit like insulin in that in a person who's insulin resistant, you can get glucose to go into their muscles.
So just by taking alpha-lipoic acid?
Yeah.
So what do you stack it with berberine in
So
your
in the
product?
case of, if you're trying to lower blood sugars, you're getting glucose out of the blood by going into your muscles. That lowers your blood glucose. And then AMP kinase is this fasting mimic AMP kinase thing where you go into this state that is like fasting, in that metabolically you are stimulating autophagy, mTOR, all those pathways that are classically AMP kinase centric, and why we fast. The cleanup crew, as well as this lowering of glucose.
And really, and if you think about where we talked about metabolic syndrome, berberine and alpha-lipoic acid do the opposite. It's like opposite of each bullet point. So it's pushing against the metabolic syndrome and promoting metabolic health.
Wow. Well, I think it's a really noble mission to say, all right, a lot of people can't afford GLP-1 drugs. And if you're using them for weight loss, they come at a cost. I mean, there is substantial risk. And I have no problem with using them for weight loss if that's what people want to do. I'm not judgy at all about it. Like, not being fat is a very important technique for living longer and just being more present in your body. Like, losing 100 pounds is unfathomably important and by any means necessary. I'm into that. But not doing harm along the way would also be important. And your idea that you're going to push on all these pathways by synergistically including like a system of things, I think it's really cool. And one of the innovations that's most important in supplements, it's not about taking something, it's about getting it into the body. And you've got a 250x delivery system here, which is really phenomenal. I kind of like to make fun of the calories in, calories out people. They're like, well, it's calories in. I go, great, eat a gram of uranium. That's 1 million calories. You're going to get fat. They go, well, you can't absorb that. I go, exactly. Right. So a lot of people waste money on supplements because they don't work synergistically, or you just can't get it in, right? Because only a tiny amount crosses. So you've stacked them the right way, and you just shared a whole bunch of knowledge, some things I didn't know about. I didn't know I was a quinolator. Now I am. So this is something that if you're looking to lose weight or just get your energy back, it's worth trying. And because you're cool, 28% off for listeners. It's Mara, MARA-labs/Dave, and 28% off. Try Gel Perfect. I just tried 4 of them on an empty stomach, maybe more than you should. I'll tell you what happens. But look, this is just cool. This is well formulated. It's why I like having you on, because there's a lot of 25-year-olds who are saying, well, I read a couple things. I asked ChatGPT and I went to a white label manufacturer and I threw this stuff together and put it up on Amazon and made some nice labels. It's not how it works. Like, it's hard to do this kind of science. And you guys are just, decades of experience. So thank you for just really bringing it. Guys, mara-labs.com/Dave.
And you can get broccoli on that link as well. We do have a 100-day unconditional money-back guarantee. So that encourages people just to give it a try.
There you go, guys. Try the sleep stuff. Try this. If it doesn't work, send it back. And how many people send the products back?
Between 1% and 2%.
There you go. So that's hard science about whether it works or not. So cool. Thank you for coming to Austin again. Thanks for just continuing to do the weird, hard research and just being deep supplement nerds, my favorite kind of people.
Thanks for having us, Dave. It's been good to be here.
See you next time on the Human Upgrade Podcast.